Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, and our virtual segment has our good friend and guest, John Dustin of JED Insurance. John, welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Jonathan, happy to be back and excited for the segment.
Excellent. You've been a busy man. You've got a lot going on as always in your world, ever the expansion of your organization. Tell us about what's been going on.
Well, I'm not by nature, a natural acquirer. We finished our fourth small book acquisition. Typically, Jonathan, we look at to make sure it's an easy blend and it's going to fit in. Again, we have our strategy of who we are and what we're going to be, and because we really do try to get to know all the clients and their actual needs, and we provide a lot of additional services. We don't depend on 800 numbers for claims. We still go to the registry. We do audits with the clients. So from my perspective, when we do something like this, we want to make sure it makes sense for both sides.
And tell us about your latest acquisition, Stanley Insurance. What is it that they do, and how does it complement your organization?
So again, it was more of a people acquisition. So the principal of that firm had been in Foxborough for 30 or 40 years. We've been here for almost 20. He represents one of the same carriers as us. We knew a lot of the clients, and we felt like they could benefit from our services. He was looking to retire. And so for a couple of years, to get him used to our culture and what we could provide, we actually had him as a tenant in one of our offices. So it was a warm transition. I'm into warm cultural transitions now. There are different models for acquisition. There are people that use funding and just buy, everything that they can get their hands on that makes a reasonable sense from a financial perspective, but we try to do it a little differently.
Well, I know, John, you're all about fit and culture and making it right for your clients, but really looking at give you an opportunity. So in essence, you've got an opportunity to date before you figured out whether or not it was a good fit for you and for your clients, and as well, I imagine, on the other side.
Yes, it wasn't looking like we were actively pursuing him with letters and having brokers call him. We got to know him. He had a situation where he needed space. I thought it was a good opportunity to get to know him, make sure it was going to move forward. Clearly, the middle of the pandemic wasn't the ideal time, Jonathan, to pursue something like this, but it made sense for both parties, both economically and personally, to move forward. The pandemic has sort of wreaked havoc for everybody, as you know. I mean, if you were, and so you asked about fit. We're probably a little heavier commercial, but we do have 9 personal lines companies. He was predominantly a personal lines company with a few commercial accounts. So for us, it gave us a little more support on the personal side. We have all the carriers. We have the full-time people here, the staff to handle it. So it was kind of a unique situation of a blend of 2 companies, and our numbers, proportionate share of business to personal accounts will come up a little.
So, you're really operating in very much adjacent geographies. It sounds like, you're operating close to one another. Is that the strategy, to just expand the footprint out beyond your core market?
So, Jonathan, I've never been just local to here. I go where there's nice people. So there's nice people all over. So our book of business is really spread out by industry, demographically, geographically. We're all over the place. Ironically, he was a little bit similar. He has some local business, but he also had business in other areas because his agency originally started as more of a commercial insurance operation. Okay. So we weren't stepping on each other's toes. We barely ever competed directly. It's ironic, in every industry you talk about competition. There's a lot of good clients in every industry that you can pick up. So you're not always in direct competition with your neighbor.
Right. Well, and it makes it for a better situation for everybody, I guess. Friendly competition is a good thing.
Right.
Right. But again, not looking at one another as cutthroat competitors or, a zero-sum game. If I get a client, it means you lose one. It's better for everybody.
So as a Jonathan's a full-time consultant, you probably see a lot of times, Jonathan, that many industries are going more toward trying to be the cheapest operation. Certainly Amazon has probably picked off on retail stores. My industry with predictive analytics and the direct writers, they're hitting personal clients 12 times a year, 14 times a year, plus Super Bowl ads. Independent agencies don't have that opportunity. So for us, we need to collaborate. We need to find the right customers, and we need to find clients that are actually looking for those additional services, that don't want to just log in, get the cheapest price, and never hear from someone again.
Yeah, and I think that's really the differentiator is, your world has become increasingly complex, as have most. A policy is, apples to apples is not an easy comparison anymore. And I think that's probably where you guys provide, that value add in helping your clients to really understand what the difference between options are and, what determines price at the end of the day.
And coverage.
And what type of coverage is appropriate given their unique situation.
So it's pretty intuitive for you to say that, because through time, they've gone to what's called the simplified policy, which is about 200 pages. And most people never get past the first page, the declaration page. So from a knowledge standpoint, we want to educate the consumer enough to know what they're buying, why they're buying it, and make sure they buy enough of it so that if they have a catastrophe or a third-party claim against them, they have coverage.
So is one of the things that you're seeing as, given your knowledge and your depth of experience in the industry, I think from a consumer or business owner perspective, it seems as though, given the rash of natural disasters and things going on, in the environmental situation, that from a consumer or business owner perspective, premiums go up, coverages go down. Is that reality, or is that just the marketplace that we're in today?
So with the number of catastrophes and certainly the pandemic, insurance doesn't always go cyclically with pricing for what's happening. So people that have poor credit, have natural disasters occur, their prices don't automatically go down. And with predictive modeling, which is, the price of data is so cheap, all these carriers can look at stuff and determine the frequency of losses and determine what Jonathan should be paying for his policy. Now, that doesn't mean he can't look around for a better company and find a company that's going to be more consistent in the long run for him and keep his pricing stable. So just what you're saying, a lot of times people do I call it caveat emptor, a buyer beware. They say, oh, I just saved $1,000. Well, they got rid of their umbrella policy and then they get sued. So you really got to pay attention to the details, and you got to make sure that whoever you're using as a representative is on your side and going to help you.
So you just touched on an interesting point that I think, at least I'm not aware of, and I don't know whether most people are aware of. But if and let's use a simple homeowners insurance, and I know nothing simple about it, but if you had two properties located next door to one another, identical houses built at the same time with the same heating system, same fire mitigation, all the same statistics, you could conceivably have two different premiums given a lot of other variables.
Most often, with the use of analytics, and the companies use 50 to 60 different variables in the background, you're going to have two completely different prices, because the carriers do what's called an insurance credit score. It is not a FICO. It's an insurance credit score. And they can determine the length you were in your last house, how many people are living there, all these things that they can go out and get and they know more about you than you probably know about yourself. And they come up with a price. So yes, you could have one house paying $1,000, the other paying $2,000 for virtually similar characteristics. Now, Jonathan, in the old days, underwriters used more of a little table, and they said, okay, it's a frame dwelling, no sprinklers, built in 1980. The replacement value is $200,000. The price should be X. It doesn't work like that nowadays. Now, what I've found through my research and writing a dissertation on predictive modeling is you can predict frequency, you can never predict severity. So the pandemic is a good example of a severe catastrophic event that nobody expected. Nobody expected this, so there's no way to price for it.
Right. And are we going to see in your opinion, a price adjustment or a lag? I mean, you know, all these claims and things that are going on the pricing has to come out of somewhere. The funding has to come from somewhere.
Well, yeah. So I think the cycle is it lags a little behind the situation, and what you'll see is the cost of reinsurance will rise a little bit. Reinsurance is what the insurance companies purchase behind the scenes to protect them. And then you'll see the prices escalate a little. Companies file for rate adjustments probably quarterly now, which in the old days, it was once a year in front of the Division of Insurance. Now it's a moving target.
Wow. Well, no doubt, along with everything else, we're living in a complex time. So, John, if our viewers, our listeners want to get in touch with you and find out more, obviously they're coming to the right place. A guy who's done a dissertation in predictive analytics in the insurance industry. Wow.
Yeah.
How do they get in touch with you? How do they go to the doctor?
Phone is 508-543-1067. Email is john.dustin@jedinsurance.com, and we're on the web at www.jedinsurance.com, and we do not charge a copay.
one of the few in the industry that don't. No, better than the big boys. John, it's a pleasure to have you on, and it's always a pleasure to see you. And glad to hear that you've been actively engaged in acquiring practices in this challenging time. And wish you continued success and growth.
Thank you, Jonathan. Great to be here.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.